On this Eastern Conference playoff edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, 3 teams are on to round 2, and the Toronto Maple Leafs have made things interesting against the Boston Bruins. That's all coming up and more on this week's Eastern Conference edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. Your team every day.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, new intro. Feeling good after that. Locked On NHL, your team every day. I'm Ross Levitan. You can find me 5 days a week over at Locked On Ottawa Senators, alongside Mike DiStefano, as always, from Locked On Toronto Maple Leafs. We are the Battle of Ontario edition, and I will spare Mikey the victory lap after my Belleville Senators beat the Toronto Marlies in the AHL playoffs. Mikey, that's all we've got to live for here in Sens land, but man, the NHL playoffs have been fantastic. If you want to go to the NHL playoffs, you can get your tickets through Gametime. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first ticketing purchase. Mikey, what's the temperature like in Leafland right now after that big win in overtime last night?
It's a lot better today than it was yesterday or the day before that. I can assure you of this. There's still going to be some nerves. Obviously, it's still do or die for the Maple Leafs. It's 3-2 instead of 3-1. So I mean, it's not like they're in a much better situation, and they're going back to play on home ice, which you would think would be considered a benefit for the Maple Leafs. Except they've played awful on home ice this year. For whatever reason that is, I do not know. They've yet to win on home ice in the playoffs, and they've lost, I think, now 6 straight games on home ice in the playoffs. And overall this season, they've been roughly a 500 team on home ice. So, there's still going to be a little bit of worries, and obviously the most of it's going to stem from whether or not Austin Matthews is going to be in the lineup for Game 6. Wasn't in the lineup for Game 5. The Leafs pulled out a gutsy effort win. Lots of guys stepped up. Joseph Woll played amazing. Matthew Nyes, game winner, got some big contributions from Domi as well. Just a real team effort, I would say, to keep the season alive. But can they win 2 more games here against the Boston Bruins? We'll see.
I'm excited to find out. At least we've got some Game 6s after 3 of the 4 Eastern Conference series have ended in 5 or 4 with the Rangers pulling off the sweep. And I want to actually pick up on something you said there, and that's the losing at home for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And do you think it's a bit of the pressure in playing in Canada? Vancouver's 1-2 at home. Winnipeg was 1-2 at home, lost the game to lose in elimination last night. And Edmonton is 1-1 at home. So this isn't just an isolated thing with Toronto, but all these Canadian teams are having trouble winning at home in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that is. I mean, I possibly you could look at that as a pressure thing and teams not being able to live up to it. I'd like to think that's not, the reason, and that these players can continue to play their game plan and execute no matter if they're at home or they're on the road or wherever they are. It is a weird kind of trend that we're seeing this year in the NHL. But I don't know if I'd read a whole lot into it. I think it's just kind of just a weird thing that's kind of happening this year.
Okay, so this series still ongoing, Toronto and Boston. What's the key to winning on home ice in Game 6? Is there one area of the game you're looking for the Leafs where, hey, if they can do this, they've got a good chance?
Yeah, I think that they've got to do a much better job of generating some more higher grade chances. The Maple Leafs yesterday, if you look at the underlying numbers, they completely led Boston by a large margin in terms of the shot attempts, the overall shot share, scoring chances. But where they didn't lead and where they were actually like really trailed in was high danger chances. I think it was 14-5. Despite owning, I think, like 68% of the shot share, the high danger chances were 14-5. So only generating 5 high danger chances throughout the entire game, not good enough, especially against a goaltender like Jeremy Swayman, right? Like he's just, if he sees a puck, he's going to save a puck. So I think the Maple Leafs got to make sure they do a better job of getting to the inside. And it's not just getting to the inside, it's getting pucks there and allowing your players to be in position to get shots off, right? They've been able to kind of filter pucks in, but the Bruins are doing a really good job of tying up sticks, tying up guys, and then clearing the net front, the puck from the net front, and not allowing Toronto to actually get those shots off. Now they got to figure out a way to do it, right? So I don't know if that's weaving in and out, trying to bring guys in and out, stretch the defense a little bit, but that is one area of the game that they certainly, I think, need to get a lot better at going into Game 6 and possibly Game 7. And then the obvious is, let's score on the power play. They're like 1 for 15, 1 for 16 on the power play in this series. The Maple Leafs, it's been putrid. That's been the biggest difference in this series, has been special teams. And it's the reason why Boston's up 3-2 right now. If they could get a power play goal or two, this would be a completely different series. And I think, law of averages suggests that this power play with Marner, with Matthews, with Nylander, with Tavares, right? Like, there's too much talent there to be operating at just a 5% clip. So law of averages may suggest that we see that start to kind of shine through at some point. Hopefully that's in Game 6, and it helps them keep the series to go 7.
Well, it was almost William Nylander, and happy birthday, turns 28 today. He comes back after dealing with the migraines in the first 3 games of the series. And then what happens? Game 5, where's Auston Matthews? Nowhere to be seen. It sounded like it was initially an illness, and then Elliot Friedman reporting, well, maybe there's something more than that. What's the latest on Auston Matthews? Is the expectation that he's back for Game 6?
There really is no latest. That's the problem. Like, it's so secretive. The team is being very tight-lipped on the situation. At first, it was declared just as an illness, and then you started to hear reports as it got close to the game time that looks like there might be something else that he's dealing with. He did go out for a quick skate in the morning. He was out there for about 5 minutes, but then decided to get off, and that's a bad sign right away. People kind of put 2 and 2 together that good chance he's not going to be in the lineup for Game 5 after that. And turns out he wasn't. Didn't even show up on the team bus. So there's something plaguing him for sure. I would be hard-pressed to think that it's an illness and an illness only that kept him out of the game for the third period of Game 4 and Game 5. Like, your season's on the line, do or die. Like, if you got the sniffles, you're playing through it. So there's got to be something else here. And for whatever reason, nobody wants to leak out what the situation is, what the injury is. Even give me like upper body, lower body. Give me some sort of designation because it's just a really frustrating thing to have to cover, knowing that the best player on your team, one of the best players in the world, is unavailable. And we don't know why. It's frustrating as somebody who covers the team on a daily basis.
Game 6 tomorrow night, Bruins visiting Toronto. For more on that, check out Mike with Dave Morassutti on Locked On Maple Leafs. We've got Ian McLaren on the other side covering the Boston Bruins. So that is the only series that remains ongoing. But the other 3, beatdowns. Now, does that say more about the victors, or was there a real discrepancy from top to bottom among the 8 teams in the East that made the postseason this year? More on those teams and those conversations, plus an interesting report out of Carolina about the future of head coach Rod Brind'Amour. That's all coming up next. You're listening to Locked On NHL. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what makes home, bringing home the #1 ride. Your ride or die, you need to keep it alive with eBay Motors. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you'll always be covered at eBay Motors, because the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you want at the prices you desire, it's easy to bring your car home and give it that MVP feeling. Make sure to keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. That's eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Go to eBay Guaranteed Fit, and it's only available to U.S. customers. Go check them out at eBay Motors.
Today's show is also brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NHL, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to puck drop. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from receipt, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets. They've got crazy last-minute deals. You've got flash deals. You've got zone deals. But my favorite, Ross, the lowest price guaranteed. That's right, lowest price guaranteed, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Welcome back, Locked On NHL Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, Eastern Conference roundup right here, Locked On NHL. We have local experts on the biggest stories every single day. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast to all the great shows across the Locked On network. The NFL draft was just last week, and wow, did the Locked On crew come through with that one. So for more on it, make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast. Right here, we are discussing the Eastern Conference and the teams that got through already. Mikey, let's talk about our New York Rangers. They were our favorite coming out of the East all season. Sure, they earned the best draw. They got it. Washington, not a competitive team in the playoffs, minus 30-something goal differential during the year, and the Rangers just made quick work out of them.
Yeah, I mean, we anticipated that happening. I think both of us, when we went through it, we said 4 or 5 games. Maybe the Washington Capitals get one from them, one win on home ice, perhaps, but didn't happen. Really quick 4 games, and I don't even think any of them went to overtime or anything. It was just a really quick series where the better team was just the better team all throughout. I mean, that team is loaded. They're stacked, and they've got one of the best goaltenders in the game as well. So when you've got, high-performing scorers like Zibanejad, like Artemi Panarin, my guy, Alexis Lafreniere, showing up, having some good, playing some good hockey for the Rangers, Chris Kreider, Trocheck, many guys. It was just too much for the Washington Capitals to handle. They were a team that limped in. They kind of, it was a snail's race for that final spot. They claimed it when all said and done. And only because realistically the Flyers pulled their goalie, only reason why they even got it. So whatever you want to talk there, ultimately they're overmatched. And I don't know, Ovechkin didn't really do anything in that series either. Are you kind of surprised by that?
0 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super surprised. He finished the season so strong. So yeah, very surprising.
I thought that at least he would be able to give up a bit of an effort. Did you hear? Was it TJ Oshie's comments afterwards? Apparently, he was dealing his back. He's got a back situation that he's dealing with. Might be career threatening. The back situation that he's
for Oshie or for Ovechkin.
Oshie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, not Ovechkin.
We got a race here.
Ovi's got to stay. Ovi's got to get to his mark. Ovi will get there. But yeah,
he's what, 41 away, I believe.
Yeah. You think he does it next year? You think he's got it in him? 40 goal season, hang it up. 2 years,
2.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Might be a little hopeful to get it done. Get it one, but big back half of the year definitely got him close.
Huge. And stick tabs. I mean, Spencer Carberry, I thought he did a good job with that team too. On paper, they're not that competitive, but they were able to integrate some of their young players for Washington, and they'll be back in the next few years. I'm confident in their young core. That Hendrix Lapierre looks like he's going to be a player, and they've got a few other Miroshnichenko and others in the system that look like they're going to be decent players, not to mention Ryan Leonard at BC. He's going to go back for another year there, but he'll be here in due time. He's going to be a player for them. Meanwhile, the New York Rangers, 14 different players with a point out of their 18-man roster in that series. They're wagon. They're playing great. Zibanejad with 7 points in the series. Lafreniere 4 assists. Trocheck 6 points. So they're going to be a tough out. But Carolina, on the other hand, just knocked out their opponents pretty handily. The New York Islanders. The Islanders fought at the end there. They made it interesting with that double overtime win in Game 4. But the Hurricanes were just too much. Every time the Islanders thought they had a chance in the series when they were up 3-0 in Game 2. There are other moments. They tie it up in Game 5. The Hurricanes just kind of put the throttle down and said, okay, let's run them over. Way too strong of a team, but this is going to be a fun matchup in round 2. Hurricanes and Rangers.
Yeah, I remember when I was going through my brackets, and obviously I have both the Canes and the Rangers going through, and I really struggled with who I thought would win this series. It's going to be a really, really solid one, though. Like, it's two very well-balanced, well-coached teams. I'm excited to see what they've got in store for us. But yeah, it was funny going through, I don't know how many playoff pools you did, but it was like, how many Rangers? Like, do I go heavy on Rangers or heavy on Hurricanes? Because only one team is going to make it to the Final Four. So which team do I want to back and put them in my playoff pools? Ultimately, I did end up going with the Rangers. I got a couple of those guys, but I'm excited for it. But did you see what Carolina scored in 2 goals in 8 seconds last night? And that was kind of curtains. It was tied. And then Varlamov gives up 2 goals in 8 seconds. And that was the season.
Yo, you mentioned Varlamov. My biggest storyline, though, out of that series, what the hell is going to go on in the crease for the Islanders? Like, is Sorokin going to be cool with getting? I mean, he didn't have a great series or a great season as we've been come to know and love from him, but I would give up a lot to have Ilya Sorokin on my team.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like, Sorokin for the last 3 years have been one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. It was kind of bizarre that they decided to go away from him. I mean, I know
Varlamov was good though. He earned his starts.
He was good. Yeah, he was definitely good for them. But still, like, Varlamov is not your future. Varlamov's like, what, 35, 36 years old? Like,
well, to put in perspective, he was Patrick Waugh's goalie when Waugh coached 10 years ago in Colorado.
There you go. Right? Like, that's Varlamov is on the back. He's probably walking down the 18th green at this point in his career. And yeah, I mean, I would imagine Sorokin probably understood the program. I'm sure there was a conversation that was had. But he's the goalie of the future there. I think there's no question about that. He's still a very tremendous goaltender. But it is interesting now with Patrick Waugh in charge, how he felt like he trusted Varlamov more than he did Ilya Sorokin. So it is going to be fascinating to see how that relationship can mend between now and the start of next season for them.
It's going to have to. But meanwhile, the Carolina Hurricanes chugging along again. And Seth Jarvis, what a player this guy is. 7 points in the series, 3 goals, led the team. But they had efforts from everyone. They had 7 players with 4 or more points in the 5 game. Super impressive. And I mentioned the 14 players on the Rangers had a point. Now, 1 extra game, sure, but 17 skaters on the Hurricanes got at least a point in that series. They're the real deal, man.
Real deal. Like, both those teams have insane depth. Lines 1 through 4, pairs 1 through 3, and they both got some stellar goaltenders in net. So I can't wait, man. That's going to be an amazing, amazing series.
It certainly will. And Mikey, on that note, Rod Brind'Amour, you know that there's always distractions around playoffs, but he's a UFA after this season. And it sounds like the owner, Tom Dundon's like, oh, it's in the drawer. Like, we'll get to it. Rod the Bot is going to make a ton of money wherever he goes. So look, Seattle firing Dave Haxtell. We know there's a previous relationship as players. And I believe that Rod Brind'Amour was initially hired his first coaching job as the AHL affiliate to the Hurricanes under Ron Francis, who's obviously running things in Seattle. That feels like a pretty solid fit if it happens. But my goodness, if you're Carolina, I mean, you have to be willing to throw the bag at Rod Brind'Amour.
Oh, yeah. Like, there's no way he can let that guy go. I mean, look at how far he's taken his team. Like, they've been to multiple, conference finals. They make the playoffs every year. They're in the mix for the President's Trophy on a yearly basis, winning divisions. Like, you can't ask for much more as a coach, and he coaches the right way. He's got the right vibe and attitude, and he gets a lot out of his players. There's no way they can let him go. Like, Dundon's got to bite the bullet and just match whatever offer anyone else is going to give him. I mean, hey, if Toronto, if things don't go well in Toronto here in round one, a lot of people think that could be curtains for, this era of the Maple Leafs, which means bye-bye Sheldon Keefe. You don't think MLSE would be willing to fork out millions of dollars to bring in Rod the Bod to be the new head coach in Toronto? Like, he would be a perfect head coach for, what this team needs. And I would think that based on how Carolina plays and how he wants his teams to play, be a good fit for Brad Treliving as well. So I kind of, we'll see what happens, but he's someone that I'm sure a lot of teams will be keeping an eye on how those negotiations go.
Give me a quick pick. Rangers, Hurricanes. Who you got?
Rangers, goaltending. Igor,
I got Rangers in 5. I've been so bad at my picks this spring. I went 7 for 8 last year. I think I'm going to go 2 for 8 this year.
So far, what am I? I think I believe I'm perfect so far. Who's gone through in the West? Just Colorado so far?
Colorado got through in the West.
Yeah, so far I'm 4 for 4. And I did have Vancouver, who is leading that series 3-2. I had Edmonton, who will probably end things tonight. And I had, who else? Dallas. Dallas is the one, and they came back.
Yep,
right? They
I got
came
Dallas
back,
too.
they tied things. So I got Dallas, and then I took Toronto. So Toronto's kind of the one team that I'm worried about at this point when it comes to keeping my bracket perfect. That's the one team that I'm kind of on the fence about right now.
All right, how many games? I got the Rangers in 5.
7. I think this is a 7-game series. I hope it's a 7-game series. Maybe I'm saying that to speak it into existence. I'd love to see 7 games, Rangers Canes.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
This is the only prediction on today's show because the Florida Panthers are still awaiting their next round matchup. But how did the Panthers get here? We'll have that discussion next. You're listening to Locked On NHL, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. All right, game off. We got to pause here to tell you about Monopoly Go. And I know what you're saying, flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there's so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments when you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, and hilarious emojis for taunting friends. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasures or a robot pachinko machine. There's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it free right now on the Google Play or on the App Store. Game on with Monopoly Go. Welcome back, Locked On NHL, your team every day. I'm Ross Levitan. That is Mike DiStefano. You can find us daily. I'm at Locked On Senators. Mike is at Locked On Maple Leafs. We have one series remaining. We already discussed earlier on in the show, the Toronto Maple Leafs forcing a Game 6. Matthew Knies with the overtime winner on the road in Boston last night. But the winner gets the opportunity to face one of the NHL's juggernauts. The Florida Panthers knocked off the Tampa Bay Lightning in 5 games. They've got clutch performers. Carter Verhaeghe again coming through in that series, his 5th overtime Stanley Cup playoff goal. Matthew Tkachuk with 9 points in 5 games. This team is a certified wagon. They were the Eastern Conference champion a year ago. And Mike, there's no reason to believe that they won't be right back there again this season.
I thought this was going to be a much tighter series than it was, and credit the Florida Panthers for making sure that it wasn't. Like they came out and they very clearly were the better team. Very
The
very clearly.
Bobrovsky backhand arm save,
Dude,
that's a series changer for me.
one of the biggest saves that I can remember in recent memory. That was an unbelievable stop. Like one of those highlight of the night materials that just night after night, it's beating the challenger every single night. It was insane. But dude, like that's just it's a feisty team. You know, it's a team that suffocates you and makes it really difficult for you to establish any type of game. That's the Florida Panthers. And I remember having this conversation with somebody in, I don't know, maybe it was February or maybe even like late March, and that somebody was saying to me, "Hey, the Florida Panthers might be struggling right now, but this is a team, they're gonna wake up come April. Like this, they know how to play, right? Like they're bored right now, but come April, when it's something to play for, it's gonna matter, they can flip the switch, and when that happens, look out, because the Florida Panthers play playoff hockey, and boy, do they play it at a high level. Matthew Tkachuk is an absolute gamer. You just like Carter Verhaeghe. This guy's one of the most clutch players. It's turned out to be in the national. You just say 5 overtime playoff goals in like 3 years. It's wild what this guy's been able to do. And like just so many more, outstanding clutch players. I do want to ask you about the goaltending interference though, because like that was kind of what most of the conversation surrounding Game 5 dealt with, was whether or not those goals from the Tampa Bay Lightning should have counted, and the discourse surrounding goaltender interference. Where did you stand on those plays?
Sorry, I've just got this audio in the background I didn't want to annoy anybody with. Now, I think for the first one, that's the one where Duclair had his foot like around the crease, right? The Sorelli goal.
Yeah, and he was kind of being held in place there by Forsling, so that's a really wonky situation. Then even the second one, like Sorelli was at the top of the crease, like right at the edge of it. It looked like he was trying everything he could do to avoid him, and he was kind of being boxed out by the defenseman. It was really, I don't know. Like I keep hearing the argument. Well, he went into the crease willingly. Did he though?
I
Like
don't know if he did. Forsling's
if
right
the
on top of him.
right? Like they're right on top of him, and if the defenseman wasn't there, right, or if there wasn't a battle in front of the net, I don't know if he goes into the crease. Like the only reason why he spins off and gets kind of nudged back a little bit is because he's engaged in a battle. The battle put him in the crease on top of the goaltender, right? So so it's not as willing as I think the spirit of the rule suggests it needs to be, which is why I kind of have an issue with these goals coming off the board.
Well, it also made it look worse because Bobrovsky kind of like backhand tried to poke check backhand and like wrapped his arm around Duclair. So it looked
On the first goal, yeah.
on the first one, yeah. So and then he like throws his stick and flails. So to me, it's like it's a bit of a sell job by the goalie there too. And hey, credit to him,
Both
it
of them.
worked. But I
Both
like
were sell jobs. Because even on the second one, if you watch, when Sorelli bumps him, like he looks at the ref right away, and the ref
yeah.
calls it off. He's like, "Bro, what the hell?" Like he dropped his stick and looked at the ref as if he got interfered with. But if you watch the overhead cam, you could see that shot is halfway toward the net, and his head is still on the wrong side of the defender.
Yeah.
Like he was being screened, and his head was looking left. The puck was on the right, and the puck was halfway to the net before he even moved. So, and then it's past him before he could react, and then he just all of a sudden drops his stick and looks at the ref. It's like, dog, you didn't even see the shot get off. You had no idea it was coming in there. It was a sell job of all sell jobs. I'll give him that credit. Kudos. It worked too. And whatever, both goals didn't end up counting, and it turned out to be big time turning points in that game. Obviously, like if that second goal would have counted, that's a 2-2 hockey game, and it's a bit of a different circumstance than it is being 2-1 in the third, and having to pull your goalie to try and get back into the game. So I don't know. The John Cooper had some comments after the game talking about how there's a mandate for more scoring in the NHL, so why they are taking goals off the board is kind of curious when that seems to be what they're trying to do and the mandate there. And I tend to agree, especially ones that are kind of, ticky-tacky like that.
I'm right with you, and both were called goals on the ice, weren't they? Or no, the first one was, the
No,
second one
the
wasn't.
first one was, the second one was called a no goal and they challenged it and it was upheld.
Yeah.
Still, I don't get it.
You know what, though? It's not the difference between them winning or losing the series. Not even close.
Well,
The
it's
game,
not
the
but
game, sure.
the
Game, sure.
game and there's a big difference from like 3-1 and 3-2. Like
Yeah,
3-2
for sure.
going back home to try and win game 6, then all of a sudden, game 7's a crapshoot. So that game 5 is very pivotal. In a 3-1 game, a possible closeout, it is pivotal, right? Like
Yep.
you can take all the momentum back. Look what happened last year with Florida. Florida won game 5 in Boston in overtime. They won it to stave off elimination, went on to win 2 more after that, and then took it all the way to a Stanley Cup final. So those game 5s are pivotal to teams and pivotal when it comes to, changing momentum of a series. So, it didn't impact things prior to, but who knows what could have happened in the next couple of games. Vasilevsky could have stood on his head for game 6 and game 7. Kucherov could have went full Kuch in game 6 and 7. And that team definitely could have went and won 2 more games and rode off into the second round if those goals would have stood and they ended up winning that game. We don't know what could have happened.
I'm excited to see whichever matchup it is. Watching the Florida Panthers play in playoff hockey is just a ton of fun because they come at you in waves. Every line has a bit of talent on it too. Like they can beat you offensively every line, and they also have a ton of sandpaper on that team. Not to mention Bobrovsky just being on what a run this guy's been on, over the last little while. I know the save percentage doesn't jump out because he had a couple games there where he didn't face a whole lot of shots. And credit to Tampa, they're also a solid team. But man, like he stole at least one of those games, if not 2.
Yeah, and I mean, he also was nominated for the Vezina this week too. So one of the 3 goaltenders for goaltender of the year. So this guy took the ball and ran with it last year in the playoffs, and he continued it all the way through the regular season. And he's looking to replicate what he did last year in the postseason again this year. The first 5 games so far, so good. Mission accomplished. Still a long ways to go for him. Who I forgot was on that team that now I'm like, not rooting for Florida, but it's like, oh, I'd like to see him win a cup.
Kyle Okposo?
Kyle Okposo.
Hell yeah.
I forgot that they made that kind of late deadline deal for him to go from Buffalo to Florida.
Well, naturally, I'm cheering for the Panthers too because the Tarasenko 4th round pick becomes a 3rd if they win the cup. So,
oh, geez,
that's franchise changing.
Got to get that.
Everyone was having a final thought for me. Everyone was having fun with, cap friendly whenever a condition is guaranteed. They tweeted out after the Winnipeg Jets lost last night that Montreal will not get a 3rd round pick in the Monahan trade. The condition was Winnipeg had to win the cup this year.
Okay.
So everyone was having fun with that one. Now, they did finish with the 4th best record in the regular season, and I got to go to game 1 in that series, the Wild 7-6 win. Dude, watching Cale Makar live, like he might be better than McKinnon or more valuable than McKinnon. Every single time he's on the ice, he controls the flow of the play. Every single shot that he takes from the point gets through. He is an unbelievable talent.
That's why I went and I bought this bad boy at the card show this weekend, buddy. Cale Makar,
unreal.
Rookie auto. Yes, guy.
He's unreal.
He's so good, dude.
And they need to fit. I know people can tell I'm opening up a can of worms. I want to put it back in, but the 2nd best team in the league should not play the 4th best team in the league in the first round of the playoffs.
Probably, yes. That probably should not be
a bit much. I'm just mad. I wanted more playoff hockey in Winnipeg, but whatever.
Overall, I think if we look at the first round and we look at how many teams ended it in 5 and not many going the distance, it's been a little underwhelming of a first round.
Yeah, it has.
Would you say?
It has. Well, hey, pressure's on tonight for the LA Kings to make that a 6-game series. And then we'll at least have 3 game 6s guaranteed.
I don't have high faith in that happening.
No, I don't either. But I'm hoping for it. I just want I want this Saturday, I guess there's only room for one now because two disappeared. I want Leafs Bruins game 7 Saturday night.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I think we need that in hockey. We need
a Saturday night game.
Saturday night, Leafs Bruins, need that to happen. 8 p.m. puck drop.
What if the Leafs are up like 4-1 with 11:35 left?
Let's end the show. I can't right now. I can't.
Oh, man. Well, hey,
for
for more on that, Locked On Maple Leafs, make sure you're subscribed all across the Locked On Podcast Network. We are local experts on the biggest stories. Did you want to talk AHL playoffs?
No one cares about the AHL playoffs, Ross. Only you piddly Sens fans care about the AHL playoffs. I've got more important things to worry about, like Game 6 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Leafs Bruins Thursday. We'll be teeing it up on the show. Locked On Leafs tomorrow. Go check it out.
And we will hand it over to Power Rankings Thursdays here on Locked On NHL. Thanks for listening. For more from us, Locked On Maple Leafs, Locked On Senators, thank you for watching. We are your team every day right here on the Locked On NHL podcast.